What are you listening to in the morning? Visit www.SiriusXM.com/go to sign up online quickly and activate your radio. Imagine waking up to the biggest names in morning entertainment: Howard Stern, Today Show Radio, news from CNN, Fox News, Bloomberg, NPR, or sports talk on NFL, MLB, NASCAR Radio, and more. Visit www.SiriusXM.com/go to sign up online quickly or call 844-711-8800 now. Activate your radio and begin exploring more than 140 channels.
Shows on the SiriusXM app. Groundbreaking interviews, amazing in-show moments, behind-the-scenes footage, live performances, all come to life in a way you only imagined before. Plus, you can create your own personalized Pandora station based on the artists you love. And hear over 100 extra channels filled with ad-free music for every mood or occasion. Get your first 6 months of our Platinum plan for only $8.33 per month, plus fees and taxes. Just call 844-711-8800 to take advantage of this amazing offer. 'Tis the season to rock out with Trans-Siberian Orchestra Radio, a brand new seasonal channel hosted and curated by the band members themselves.
That's the song that put us on the map 28 years ago. Every time I hear it, it's brand new to me. I hope it is to you as well.
Now, for a limited time, exclusively on the SiriusXM app. Search TSL.
Hear every game on your radio. And with your hometown announcers and local pre- and post-game shows, it's always a home game on the SiriusXM app.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Get ready for game day with weekly shows from NFL greats Phil Simms, Larry Fitzgerald, and Tom Brady.
To hear NFL radio, activate your radio by calling 844-711-8800 or visiting SiriusXM.com/go.
To swap that pumpkin spice latte for a peppermint mocha. SiriusXM's modern holiday hits channel, Holly, is back. It's merry, bright, and packed with Christmas favorites.
Beneath the tree, have a holly jolly Christmas. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart.
Holly, listen now for a limited time on Channel 79 and on the SiriusXM app. Free with all trials and popular plans.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, I think. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, I think.
When you're a SiriusXM subscriber, you've got access to commercial-free music, channels from almost every genre, and channels created in conjunction with the biggest names in music. Eminem's Shade 45, Pearl Jam Radio, Bruce Springsteen's E Street Radio, and more. Visit www.SiriusXM.com/go to sign up online quickly or call 844-711-8800 now. Activate your radio and start listening now.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you, as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 018-14868.
On SiriusXM and News Nation present a special prime time event, the final Republican presidential debate of the year, moderated by Megyn Kelly.
I'll ask the questions you want to hear.
Along with News Nation's Elizabeth Vargas and the Washington Free Beacon's Billy Allen Johnson.
You better be ready to give America the answers they're looking for.
Wednesday, December 6th, 8 p.m. Eastern on Triumph Channel 111 and News Nation. To find News Nation, go to join.com.
Grande Deportes, bonjour, vidi vidi vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me, the people who love the universe, and that would include you too. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, I've told everybody that I've been nominated to be the Neighborhood Watch spokesperson. And I try to bring people together. But some people don't like when it's 3 o'clock in the morning. But you don't have to worry about that. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 29 podcast applications all over the universe. You can follow Big C Sports on Google, Alexa, Spotify, Speaker Podcast, Apple Podcast, TuneIn Podcast, Good Podcast, Amazon Podcast, iHeartRadio Podcast, Castbox Podcast, Deezer Podcast, Podcast Addict. You can find us on Podchaser. You can follow Big C Sports Podcast on GeoSavan out of London, England, as well as India and Africa. Podtail, YouTube, Hubhopper, Stitcher Podcast, Radio Line, Peapod Podcast, Luminary Podcast, Mission Notes, Podcast Wise, Podbean, Verbal Podcast, Podcast Prodigy, Podcast Republic, and there's one that used to scare me, but now it doesn't. It's called allfeast.ai. Give that some praise because the robots are trying to take over. Hopefully they won't take over too soon because we still need somebody to work, and robots don't need people to work, if that makes sense to you. I want to say you can also follow Big C Sports Podcast streaming OTT on 4 TV podcast platforms all over the universe. Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Give that some praise. I love giving that praise. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I love doing the PSA for the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know, anybody going through issues, they oftentimes can get some help. They just need to know about it. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise because we all need somebody to lean on. I know we all need somebody to lean on, and sometimes we don't understand that it's just a phone call away. But with the Veterans Crisis Hotline, it's a phone call away, and it's not just for veterans. It could even be you. I've even used it myself, if that makes sense to you. I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And I love giving that praise. And then God said, let there be light. Some people actually said when they listened to my show, they said, hey, Big C, let me tell you something, man. You keep saying that God said in what did it say? Chapter 1, verse 3. Is in Genesis chapter 1, verse 3, where he said, reparations now, reparations forever. I said, Pastor, he said, let there be light. See, the pastor took it so serious, he called me to complain. He said, I don't appreciate you not knowing your scripture. And I said, well, what scripture did I mess up, Pastor? He said, you said in Genesis chapter 1, verse 3, that God said reparations now, reparations forever. And I said, well, that's what he meant. Because reparations means that you have to see the light. You got to see the light of day. Because so many people are sleepwalking, they don't see the light. I'm not going to name this man's name, but he's a former NFL football player, an erstwhile football player. I saw him on a TV show last night. And this guy's a Hall of Famer. Black man, Super Bowl champion. And he was bragging about how many times he's gotten his groove on. And he said, I do a show. It's no politics. It's just sports. I just want to think the sports. I said, here's a man that's made millions of dollars playing NFL football. He's been in trouble more times than you have hands, and more times than you have fingers on your hands. And here he is saying, listen to my podcast. We only think the sports. And his butt been in more trouble than you have fingers on your hands. And here's a man that talked about not wanting to be sent back to the ghetto. where he came from. How did the ghetto get created, Mr. Only One Stick to Sports? How did it get created? And now they put this man on TV after he's been accused of many shenanigans over the years. And now he has the gall to come on television and tell those other kids in the ghetto that might want to look to him to find a way out of the ghetto that was created and manufactured. The ghettos were manufactured. And here he is saying he hoped he didn't get sent back to the ghetto. And now he's telling the people in the ghetto, don't educate your mind. Don't become erudite. Don't become a learned person. Just stick to sports. It's like Django. And it's embarrassing because the people that pay his paycheck, they didn't just stick to sports. I want to talk about a white lady who bought part of an NBA basketball team today because she didn't just stick to sports. And you have this black man who they put out there like Django, and they say, listen, you got people in the ghetto where you came from, boy, that will listen to you, boy. Make sure you tell them, don't try to become like the people who signed your paycheck. Just have them stick to sports. And unfortunately, there's so many men that I've seen over the years, and they want their kid to just stick to sports. Don't become a doctor. Don't become a lawyer. Don't become a businessman. Don't become an owner of anything. Just stick to sports. You got to realize that the NFL only employs about 1,500 men. 75% of them are black men. And those 75% of black men, there are only 3 black NFL head coaches in the NFL. 3! So that means there's only 3 jobs, and you got this black man coming on television, NFL Hall of Famer, saying, listen to my podcast, we don't talk politics. They only stick to sports. If you only stick to sports, I just told you there's over 1,500 jobs in the NFL. Out of those 1,500 jobs, they only have 3 black coaches. 3! And you got this black NFL football player being used, saying he has a podcast and they only stick to sports, man. All I want to know is when they work my number, they think about me. Scoring touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Old man Willie, he's gone all the way. And to me, I'm not knocking him because that's what he was pigeonholed to say. He was told to just stick to sports. You got the politicians out there having the Republican debates and the Democratic debates coming up. They'll increase more in 2024. And unfortunately, sometimes we look up to erstwhile athletes and they're telling you, don't try to develop your mind to a higher level. Just stick to sports. And that's embarrassing to me because when his butt got in trouble by accusations, you better believe he didn't just stick to sports. He called an attorney. You know, the guys that don't stick to sports. He called an attorney to keep his butt out of jail. But he's telling the people in the ghetto, just stick to sports, man. Just stick to sports. Just stick to sports. But when his butt gets in trouble, he's not sticking to sports, is he? He's calling attorneys to get him out of trouble. I'm not saying the brother's name, but people know who he is. He just got his butt out of trouble this year because somebody accused him of something. And then he gets on TV bragging about how they used to rent out the whole floor of a hotel so they could have their parties. Parties doing what? And then the guy go to them on TV saying, you must have done so many things that you can't talk about on TV. Well, so has the Hollywood entertainer that has a talk show. But he made it seem like the black man can't control himself. Tell me what you did when you were an NFL football player. All the things you must have done that you can't talk about on TV. And this man's like, I can't go into what I said. All the things I done. And he has kids watching him. It was so embarrassing. The entertainer that has a talk show, I'm sure he's done some things that he won't talk about in front of his family. But the football player, instead of saying, I bet you've done some things as a multi-millionaire Hollywood entertainer, what have you done that you can't talk about in front of your family? But he sit there acting like Django. And this white man said, you're a friend of mine because you just stick to sports. Embarrassing. But I'm different. I'm not that way. And that's why I say Big C Sports is different. Give me some praise. And so when my pastor said, man, I was looking all over the Bible. If you said Genesis chapter 1 verse 3, God said reparations now, reparations forever. And the pastor told me, I haven't seen that. He said, you need to know your Bible. I said, well, it said let there be light. And reparations is like light for people. I won't just stick to sports because my mind, it can't stay that small. It can't stay that small. Today's show, like a lot of the shows that I'm doing, I wanna bring people into the consciousness that we don't just tell our young black boys and girls, just stick to sports! Because you got a 5-year window when your body's all beaten up and mangled. If you're not a superstar Hall of Fame athlete, you may not get opportunities to go on and make a fortune. And for the men that make a fortune and they're told just stick to sports, to me it's like a sellout. Because the people that sign their paychecks, you better believe their parents didn't raise them to just be an athlete. They raised them to be businessmen, businesswomen, entrepreneurs. They didn't tell them just stick to sports. It was like Django to me. It was kind of painful to watch. I even turned it off after about 7 minutes. He was bragging about being dumbed down. Man, when I played, when you play, what are you playing now? And he's going to tell young black kids that listen to him in the ghetto where he said he doesn't want to go back to, just stick to sports? Isn't that how we got in this problem in the first place? Just shucking and jiving, entertaining? How about own a sports team? How about try to create business? And because there are a lot of men who are in business, talk about how you got in business like Big C Sports is doing. You know, I'm going to talk about something today it's affecting people in the industry that I've been in for over 2 decades. That's real estate. I'll get into that now. There has a lawsuit with the National Association of Realtors, and people are losing that 6% commission. It's going to affect a lot of people, but I have a solution for you. With the Big C team, I have a solution for you, and it's going to help people. But you gotta be able to say that you're not going to teach your children just to stick to sports. We don't want to dumb down our society, but they'll put people like that man on television, and he'll tell you that the man who made him a multi-millionaire didn't just stick to sports. But he's telling you to stick to sports. How's that working for you when there's only 3 black men with head coaching jobs in the NFL? And one they might want to fire at the end of this year. And he has a Super Bowl championship. You think about that when somebody tells you, when I played, I was great. And now they're not sticking to sports. Now they're in business. But they won't tell you how to get in business like they're in. They're telling you just watch what they did 20 years ago and be all happy and buy their jerseys and buy their hats and let them sign your autograph. That's not going to feed you. I mean, I'm just saying, it's my opinion. Give me some praise. I want to tell you, I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter in our lives. I like to use more laughter, especially after watching that guy be embarrassed last night by the white TV host that told him, I bet you did a lot of things that you can't talk about on TV. And the guy said, yeah, I was doing my thing, but I can't talk about a lot of things I did. And he should have said, yeah, what have you done that you can't talk about, Mr. White Man, in front of your children? But he didn't. He bragged about being a sycophant. And that's embarrassing. He has parents and grandparents too. And he said he didn't want to go back to the ghetto where he came from. But he wants the people in the ghetto where he came from to buy his jerseys. To me, that's just, anyway, let me get off of that. I'll always do the commercials. The stats are provided. I do the storytelling. I even do the play-by-play. And then I upload the show. It goes out to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City. And I'm in Dimdale Hills, California, and then streaming on 4 TV platforms. And number 10, I never missed a show. And I don't just stick to sports. Because what I'm going to talk about now and coming up, I love sports too. Sports is a $1 billion industry. And boys and girls sports is the foundation to that billion-dollar industry. It is a great foundation. But the industry is about business. It is a business. In fact, the NFL is over $15 billion a year. And the men and women who own the NFL and also NBA, they don't just stick to sports. And you'll never see them put their white children on TV and say, man, just stick to sports. They won't put their white athletes on and say, man, just stick to sports. Even if they do tell you, oh, I just stick to sports, they're lying to you because they are businessmen. They do real estate. They have investments. They have insurance. They invest in all kind of industries. They're not just putting on a uniform. And even if you look at Magic Johnson, he's supposedly a billionaire. Magic Johnson's not just sticking to sports. He's an entrepreneur. That's an example that all of us can follow, especially for guys that say they don't want to go back to the ghetto that was manufactured and created for people of color. After slavery ended, the Emancipation Proclamation, they had nowhere to put all the black folks. So they created these ghettos, and they created lack of jobs, and bad food, and bad water, and bad housing, and all the other garbage that you don't want to go back to. And then you didn't have enough opportunity to go out and get a job, so they dropped in these things called drugs in the inner cities. Because people got to eat sometime like a rat. You prey on each other. That's by design. Oh, I don't want to go back to the ghetto, but I just want to stick to sports. There's only 3 jobs in the NFL that are owned by black men. Just 3. Todd Bowles, D'Amico Ryans, they got 2 of those jobs. Mike Tomlin has the other. 3. And here's a black man saying, just stick to sports. That's embarrassing to me. As I say, give Big C Sports some praise. I may not be for everybody, but I'm not going to dumb down myself to make some white people feel comfortable. Because I don't want those kind of white people around me. I have people, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Arab, Native American, that are part of my tribe. And we all want to help each other grow, put the puzzle together. But I don't think any one of them will tell their children, just stick to sports! The man that signed his paycheck, he didn't just stick to sports. That's why he owned a professional team. But they'll send out somebody like that, an erstwhile athletes, and say, tell your people who follow you, you boys just stick to sports and entertain us! Don't want to entertain you. I want a seat at the table like the Last Supper when Christ, who was a black man, the Last Supper. He didn't tell people to go stick to sports. Anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. You got to give me some praise because I'm on one today. I want to thank the California Reparations Task Force because they don't just stick to sports. If the California Reparations Task Force only stuck to sports, there'd be no task force to get reparations. We got to have the same passion for reparations that we have for touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Oh man, Willie, he's going all the way. That same kind of passion. You know, the same passion that the sports teams owners have. When we go up and down the field scoring touchdowns and scoring baskets and hitting home runs, you know, they jump up and down too. But they also own that sports team. And there's no black owners of a sports team in the United States. Oh, that's not true. How about Magic Johnson? How about Michael Jordan? They don't own those teams. They bought a percentage of those teams. They were allowed to buy a percentage of those teams. That's what they were allowed to do. They do not own those teams. They bought a percentage of those teams. You know how they bought a percentage of those teams? Because they did not just stick to sports. Like the erstwhile athlete was on a television show last night being made fun of by a white man to make him feel like all that shucking and jiving makes you my friend. You're my friend because you shuck and jive. Yeah, man, my program, we only stick to sports. If you only stick to sports, how are you going to go to the bank and get money? If you only stick to sports, how are you going to get involved in business? So many, when I was in college playing ball and being around professional athletes, there were so many guys that would have that same story. Man, when I played, if coach would have played me more, I would have made pro. Man, if coach would have put me in the game, I would have made pro. Man, the only reason I didn't make pro is because I tore my ACL. Well, how about business? How about other opportunity? The truth be told, those coaching jobs are open for white men. They're open for white men because their parents don't train them. Just stick to sports. So you have a choice. You can follow Big C Sports, or you can follow these other guys that tell you you're too stupid to be a business owner. You're too stupid to be involved in real estate. You're too stupid to be involved in insurance. You're too stupid to be a businessman. Just play sports all day and night. Just play sports so they can say touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Oh man, Willie, he's going all the way. Man, when I played, what a joke. I want to thank the California Reparations Task Force because they don't just stick to sports. I want to thank Camila Moore, the chair. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. An attorney in Reparations Justice. She doesn't just stick to sports. I want to thank Dr. Amy C. Brown, Vice Chair of the California Reparations Task Force. He's brilliant, and he doesn't just stick to sports. I want to thank the #1 senator in the United States of America, California Senator Stephen Bradford. He's responsible for name, image, and likeness that helps every college athlete get paid based on their name, image, and likeness. You would think he'd be a household name, but he's not because he's beautiful, intelligent, and black. He doesn't just stick to sports. I love giving him praise. Going to be meeting with him soon. I want to also thank the council member, Monica Montgomery Stephanie. And I've already met with Senator Stephen Bradford at a Reparations Task Force rally. Had a great conversation with him. And then, councilman, he doesn't just stick to sports, by the way. I want to give praise to Councilmember Monica Montgomery Stephanie. She's brilliant. She doesn't just stick to sports. I want to give her praise. I want to give praise to Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer. He's brilliant. He doesn't just stick to sports. I want to thank and give praise to Dr. Shell Grills. She's brilliant. And she doesn't just stick to sports. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. Had conversation with her. And she doesn't just stick to sports. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, professor at California Berkeley. He's brilliant. And he doesn't just stick to sports. I want to give him praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Donald K. Tamaki. He's brilliant. And he doesn't just stick to sports. Part of the California Reparations Task Force, Japanese American, that gap reparations. You got to give that some praise. And he says that descendants of child slavery deserve reparations also. I want to thank this is CNN. Proud sponsors of Big C Sports, Caitlin College. The Source weeknights at 9 o'clock p.m. East Coast time. Proud sponsors of Big C Sports. Also want to say thank you to PNC Private Bank. Proud sponsors of Big C Sports. Now I need $6 billion. I want to thank Double O, part of the National PAC Committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. She sent me this order, executive order by President Biden, signed his first day in office, Executive Order 13985. You can Google it. It's on further advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government called the White House. And they don't just stick to sports. You got to understand that. Senator Marco Rubio out of Florida, Senator Rick Scott out of Florida, they reintroduced a bill in 2023 called Restore Holocaust Survivors' Rights. You know they don't just stick to sports. I want to thank Georgetown University. Finally, some sports! No, Georgetown University, they pledged over $1 billion. Over $1 billion to 272 families. Black families. Descendants of chattel slavery who helped build Georgetown. They were sold off to pay the debts for Georgetown. They don't just stick to sports. Unfortunately, too many of us, we think about Georgetown, we think about Allen Iverson. We think about Alonzo Mourning. We think about Patrick Ewing. Great players. We think about the late John Thompson. Great coach. John Thompson Jr. Great coach. But reparations pledged over $1 billion to 272 black families. John Thompson didn't pledge $1 billion. The late John Thompson Jr. Alonzo Mourning didn't pledge $1 billion. Allen Iverson didn't pledge $1 billion. Patrick Ewing didn't pledge $1 billion to 272 families of chattel slavery. It was Georgetown University, because they realized their complicity in destroying black families. They didn't just stick to sports. So it hurts my heart when I see a black man that's been propped up on media and shown on television every week as a hero. A hero of what? Because had the people who pledged the Jesuits at Georgetown, and they did that this year, 2023. Have they just pledged to say what this man said on television the other night, just stick to sports? You think they would have had reparations for descendants of chattel slavery? Georgetown. You know, black Americans were sold. They were sold to fund Georgetown University. You only hear that on Big C Sports. Google it. Georgetown University and the Jesuits have pledged over $100 billion. Beg your pardon, over $1 billion and counting. It's because the Descendants in Truth and Reconciliation Foundation confirmed those gifts. It was on CNN. The contributions from Georgetown University and the Jesuits are a clear indication of the role the Jesuits and other institutions of higher education can play in supporting our mission to heal the wounds of racism in the United States. And it don't just stick to sports. As well as a call to action for all the Catholic Church, you know, the Pope, to take meaningful steps to address the harm done through centuries of slaveholding. Monique Trusclair Maddox, CEO of the Descendants Truth and Reconciliation Foundation and chair of its board of directors, they're trying to make an effort to right the wrongs that happened to black Americans, descendants of chattel slavery. And then we get some of our erstwhile athletes that say, well, man, I don't want to talk about that stuff. I just want to talk about when I played, when I scored touchdowns. It's not going to help your children or the people that you say you don't want to go back to, the ghetto. And that's a shame. That's why Big C Sports is different. And I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm just pointing out what I heard. Because some people, they don't care about anything other than sports. But then they'll complain that black men can't get a job in the NFL. You tell these owners that we don't really want a job. We just want to talk about what we did in the past. Everybody has a past, but your past does not have to equal your future. I also want to give praise to Double O, part of the National PAC Committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. She sent me an article that a lot of black men should read, and women too. This article was written in September 19th, 2023, by the United Nations and Human Rights Office of Higher Commission. It says strong leadership and political will are crucial to reparatory justice for people of African descent. That's a United Nations report sent to me by Double O. Came out of New York City. An in-depth United Nations report focused on reparatory justice for people of African descent. It urges states to show strong leadership and political will in tackling the lasting consequences of enslavement, the trade of enslaved Africans, and colonialism. The report to the United Nations General Assembly by the United Nations Secretary General. It set out a series of concrete steps and the international community to address the continued harm suffered by people of African descent. You gotta see that. It's estimated that between 25 and 30 million people were violently uprooted from Africa for enslavement in the transatlantic trade. And enslaved Africans caused the largest and most concentrated deportation of human beings involving several regions of the world during more than 4 centuries. Oh, I only want to stick to sports on my program. And you have Congress right now, as we are breathing, debating whether they pay reparations to descendants of chattel slavery. Oh, that'll never happen! Well, Georgetown just did it. Georgetown just did it. What you said will never happen. Oh, what are they going to do with all that money? Georgetown just pledged over $1 billion and counting. No one questions what descendants of Holocaust are going to do with their money. No one ever questions what are the people who are descendants of Holocaust going to do when they get that money. I just told you, Senator Marco Rubio and Rick Scott of Florida, they're in Congress as we are breathing, making sure they keep getting paid. No one questions what are they going to do with all that money. It's only when it comes to black folks. Some people are just trained to stay broke. The banks have already colluded against us with redlining, gerrymandering for voting. I mean, it's almost embarrassing when a guy says, I only want to stick to sports. And the white dude saying, I bet you did a lot of things when you played that you can't talk about on TV. He should have said, You're Hollywood too. I bet you've done a lot of things to get to your position in life that you can't talk about on TV in front of your family. But he didn't. And that's embarrassing to me. President Biden, for those who say, just teach your kids to take to sports, President Biden, he backs the reparations, is in Congress right now. Congress considers a bill in 2023. You wouldn't know about it listening to most of our brothers on TV and sisters. I want to just close up with this before I get into some sports, because I know some people just want to stick to sports. It makes me want to throw up sometimes when somebody says, man, quit talking politics. Just stick to sports, man. Just stick to sports. And Congress is trying to decide, do we treat black Americans the same way we treated our Jewish brethren when we passed reparations? You got to understand the difference. See, I'm not ignorant, so I can't just have those ignorant conversations. And then I've been talking about the truth, and I've got more platforms than anybody in the United States. Unless I miscount, 29 platforms, that's a lot. I'm one beautiful, intelligent black man. People love the truth. Google Freedman's Bank for the man who just wants to stick to sports. Freedman's Bank, chartered by the United States Congress, March 1865, to provide a place for former slaves to safely store their money. After several successful years in which Freedman deposited more than $57 million in the bank, it collapsed in 1874 as a result of mismanagement and fraud. The bank's failure not only robbed black Americans of their savings, all of it, but also had a severe psychological impact on them, causing many to give up hopes and dreams that went along with their savings and bringing about a general distrust of financial institutions for years to come. And you know, when people say, I don't want to go back to the ghetto, how was the ghetto created? Because the same things that black people didn't get, like the Homestead Act, 1863, they gave it to white people, over 276 million acres of land. You know, land is worth money. You ever hear white people tell their kids, oh, just stick to sports? The government bailed them out. Even white Europeans. Even some of the people that own professional sports teams, their families benefited from that money that was paid out through the homestead. They got land. When you have land, it's worth money. But the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest, according to Einstein. He didn't say it was sports. Imagine the $1.4 trillion deficit that black wealth compared to white wealth. Where do you think it came from? The United States not only would never let black people to make a living, not even a penny, from cradle to grave. From cradle to grave. Not even one penny. You got people in Hollywood striking because they can't get a $2 an hour raise. On strike. Most of them white. And 90% of them are white. They went on strike because they could not get a $2 an hour raise. A living wage. But back to Freedman's Bank. You know who was entrusted to oversee black people's money in Freedman's Bank? A board of 50 white trustees was named to manage the bank's affairs. You know what they didn't do? They didn't just stick to sports. But they committed fraud. They stole all of it! And now Congress is trying to give it back. They had 30 branches over a dozen states and the District of Columbia, you know where the White House is. And I'm going to ask lucid, learned, erudite men and women to join this cause for the National Black Wall Street Project. I'm going to get into some sports also, but there are no sports without banks. Who do you think's paying those contracts? I want people to understand. I'm going to get into some sports too, but I'm going to start doing a project on how to get a hold of the first $100 billion. Working as a co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project and asking Wall Street and business and the White House to create a plan for black Americans, descendants of chattel slavery, to create billions of dollars. Black Wall Street Global Project is on a mission to elevate our community with a sense of righteousness and economic education for people of color. With over 50 years of experience contributing toward community growth, they're adept at amplifying economic recovery for international stability. And that's part of the National Black Wall Street Project. And I'm part of that, a co-chair. And I'm asking the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, and the White House, as well as Fortune 500 companies, to invest in Black America, or what they call African American communities. I need help, but I'm going to have the conversation. I promise you, I will not just stick to sports. And I will never tell my kids to dumb down that just stick to sports. Go out and practice basketball 10 hours a day because you're going to be the next pro athlete. It's like an insult. Who would do that to their child? There's only 3 jobs available in the NFL. There's 350 million people in the United States of America. 350 million. Supposedly 40 million African American. And you have families raising their children to just play sports? Google Dr. Claude Anderson, Powernomics. It's important. Dr. Claude Anderson is a bestseller on Amazon.com, achieving the remarkable position of #1 in urban and economic development. And he also has worked with President Joe Biden in the White House. Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Powernomics, that everyone should read, the national plan to empower Black America, is still #1 and Amazon's bestseller because it don't just stick to sports. Urban and regional development. If you want to practice economic development, the best way is to go to Powernomics.com and start learning what Dr. Claude Anderson is teaching. He's not the only one, but he's not telling you to go worship some erstwhile athlete and dumb down your children just to play sports. He's not doing that. And to get on television and let some white man embarrass him by saying, man, you can't talk about some of the things you did when you played. And he should have told the white man the same question. He should have asked the same question. How'd you get to this position in Hollywood to host a late night talk show? I bet you can't talk about some of the things you did when you were out there shucking and jiving to get yourself in this position. But he didn't serve him the same question. He just, oh yeah, man, when I played, we had a lot of fun. We had so much fun, man, I can't tell you some things I can't talk about. He didn't ask the white man the same question, just shucking and jiving him. What do you think they learned to shuck and jive? You think the black women had opportunities when the slave master would come into the barn and do what he wanted to do with those beautiful Nubian women? Where do you think all that miscegenation came from? They weren't staying in the house with their wives. Dallas Mavericks. Adelson's family freed up $2 billion. $2 billion to reportedly buy stake in the Dallas Mavericks. This just happened on November 28th. Google it. Miriam Adelson is selling off $2 billion of her Las Vegas Sands Corporation stock. An SEC filing indicates that the Adelson plans to use the proceeds from the sale in addition to cash on hand to purchase a professional sports team. You mean she didn't just stick to sports? She's trying to buy a professional sports team? Adelson, I think she's 78 years old, is selling off $2 billion worth of her stock in Las Vegas Sands Corporation and plans on using it to get into the world of professional sports. Not as a basketball player, not as a football player. The family plans to buy a significant share of the NBA's Dallas Mavericks. The report also states that Mark Cuban would retain operational control of the franchise. That's something that people should pay attention to. What about Black Wall Street buying a professional franchise? I may be wrong about my numbers here, but you can Google it. I think Jerry Jones bought the Dallas Cowboys for about $150 million back in the day, and now they're worth over $6.5 billion. The NFL will not allow black men to buy a franchise. Even when there were people putting money together to try to buy several teams, from the Carolina Panthers to the Washington Redskins at that time, they let Magic Johnson come in and buy a small portion of it. He's not a majority owner. Mark Cuban selling the Dallas Mavericks significant stake to billionaire Miriam Adelson. A casino deal is coming, perhaps. Think about that. They're not just sticking to sports. This has came out today. Mark Cuban is selling a significant stake in the Dallas Mavericks, according to a report that notes that the arrangement would have the Dallas-Fort Worth-based billionaire continue to retain operational control of the team. You know who's writing a letter to Mark Cuban of the Dallas Mavericks? Big C Sports with the National Black Wall Street Project. Writing a letter to ask, how can more black Americans buy a portion of the Dallas Mavericks? That letter's coming. I'm not asking someone to affirm any action. The Adelson family is in the process of buying its way into the part of the ownership group of the franchise, which has been owned by Mark Cuban since 2000. Cuban has a vision for the team's future arena that mirrors that of a Las Vegas-style casino and resort. And it so happens that the Las Vegas Sands is owned by the Adelson family, with Miriam, now widow of Sheldon Adelson, worth about $32 billion. They didn't just stick to sports. Miriam recently sold $2 billion of her Sands stock with the intention of investing in a sports franchise. Isn't that something? You gotta, I'm working to become, and I'm right there at the doorstep of these billionaire owners. I've worked NFL football, NBA basketball for over 2 decades now. I've met many people who have billions of dollars. Almost all of them are Caucasian. Almost all of them benefited from the Homestead Act of 1863 and 1862 that gave white people money through land, 276 million acres, with compound interest and going to the bank to get a loan. That's how a lot of people raise their money. That's how they bought stock in big companies. They become wealthy. That's important to know that. It's great when we have a few athletes that make a lot of money. It's great when people can get into the business and capitalize on what they've done as an athlete. But what's missing in our community is how do we get opportunity to rub shoulders with them? And that's coming with BC Sports. You got to give that some praise. I'm not just sticking to sports because I want to make sure that what I do is going to be able to pass to future generations. You can only dribble a basketball so many times. At some point in time, we got to realize there's opportunity there. In fact, here's one of them right now. After a $1.8 billion verdict, the clock is ticking on the 6% Real Estate Commission all over the United States. People use travel agents to buy a plane ticket or a stockbroker to trade equities. It seems like relics of the past, and yet every day people across America, they hire a real estate agent to help them sell a home. It's one of the few industries that has been able to largely avoid the disruption that has helped consumers cut costs in the internet age. People don't write letters now. They send a text or an email. And it's largely because the power of the National Association of Realtors, who don't just stick to sports, the largest professional organization in the United States of America, and a significant lobbying group in the real estate industry. You know, that same industry that had redlining to keep black people from buying properties in certain neighborhoods, a racial covenant, restrictive covenants that said you cannot sell to a person who's not white or Caucasian. Some of these major companies, the verdict handed down by a Missouri court just last month found that National Association of Realtors and 2 brokerage firms, Home Services of America and Keller Williams Realty, they were liable for $1.8 billion in damages, conspiring to keep commissions artificially high. It may mark the beginning of the end of how homes are bought and sold. Well, Big C Sport is part of a group that has a solution for that. 2 other firms were also named. RE/MAX was one of them, and Anywhere Real Estate, formerly known as Reality, which is part of the company of Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Southeast International Realty, settled out of court for complying $140 million. As a term of the settlement, they each announced a commitment to make changes in their business practices, including not requiring agents to become members of the National Association of Realtors. An oligarchy. In more and more there's been fewer and fewer black Americans in the real estate industry. Why? Because sometimes they can't get the listing and they cannot afford the fees. While the state government's licensed real estate agents, NAR, has an extensive code of ethics it expects members to adhere to, NAR and the brokerages have vowed to appeal the verdict, which means real estate commissions are not going anywhere immediately. NAR has been fighting off U.S. antitrust officials and litigation for years regarding anti-competitive practices, and this verdict is the association's biggest setback. Keep in mind, it's already gotten a lot of people of color out of the business. But you want work in, I don't just stick to sports. My goal is doing the real estate show starting January of 2024. I want to help create over $6 billion in transactions with the Big C team. Big C team? How you reach the Big C team? 800-772-8624. What? I said 800-772-8624. I didn't hear you. 800-772-8624. For those of you who can't find work in real estate, we have a business loan alternative company. You need 4 months bank statements to qualify. 4? Yeah, 4. $5,000 a month minimum monthly revenue. $5,000. That's it. And 6 months in business. We specialize in unsecured working capital, up to $5 million, and no collateral. We have early payoff discounts, and we can fund in as little as a day. Unlike the traditional funding in 30 days or sometimes 50 days and getting denied. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. We don't just stick to sports. Things are changing in life, and I'm looking to hire at least 1,000 real estate agents, brokers, and insurance brokers in the next 12 months to join the Big C team. 800-772-8624. You can Google the NAR lawsuit and realize that a lot of people in real estate are going to be hurting. But if you join the Big C team, you have a chance to keep working in commerce. You got to give that some praise. I'm not just going to stick to sports. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I love giving praise to my family legacy on my beautiful mother's side. My beautiful mother, always saying rise and shine. Best person I ever met in my life. My great-grandmother, Mama, beautiful, loving, kind woman. Always making sure lots of love in the family, lots of food in the belly. My beautiful great-grandfather called him Pop, from a military man, a Negro League baseball player. Always could fix anything. Planes, trains, and automobiles. My beautiful grandmother, Mud Deer, beautiful, loving, kind woman. Always making sure lots of love in the family. And then food in the belly. She was a seer, could oftentimes look at people and see what's going on in their lives. And really do appreciate her. She still helps me to this day. My grandfather, Hezekiah, another wonderful person. A seer, could oftentimes look at people and tell you a lot about their past, present, and future. And then on my father's side, well, I tell you, I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Just very loving and kind. An ambitious person. Even coached an all-league, all-male boys Little League baseball team to a championship. Best person I ever met in my life. On my father's side, my granddaddy, a pastor with 2 churches. Built the third one in Central California. He had 2 in Oakland. He owned 2 service stations in Oakland. A businessman. He also owned 40 acres of land. Really do appreciate him, like the Emancipation Proclamation. And then I look at my grandmother, Alberta Curry. Worked side by side with my granddaddy with the 2 churches in Oakland. And also, 8 years old, walking through a hallway, I felt someone touch me on my forehead at night about 10 o'clock. She said, "Excuse me, young man, are you going to get some more cookies?" I said, "Well, what are you doing up, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, "What are you doing, young man? Going to get some more cookies?" I said, "Cookies are baby crap to what I'm doing. I'm going to get my reparations." She said, "There's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak." And I'm on 29 podcast platforms, streaming on 4 TV platforms. I'm about to start a real estate show that might become one of the top real estate shows in the United States. I'm going to start it in January of 2024. I'm going to make sure I do my part with reparations and connecting commerce. And then my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure planes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. Always saying to develop your mind to its highest extent. Love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful brother Todd, that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning when top of speed. Always saying go forward, a voracious reader. Love top with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. She set up the very first interview for Big C Sports back at Salem Media. And from there, we went on to become the first time in the history of the United States that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. It had never happened before. Until 2 black men in the crew got together and said, we're not just going to talk about sports. Isn't that something? Shenanigans happen. That show went away. I'm still rising. Daisy, you can be anything you want to be. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Always trust God. Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against you will prosper. My beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get newspapers and look up stats for Big C Sports Podcast. And one day, Malcolm, I was going through newspapers. And one day, Malcolm said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And the light bulb went off. I've been Googling ever since. Now I'm on 29 podcast platforms and streaming on 4 TV platforms. One day, Malcolm said, Dad, do you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You'll see your show come up. That's before it was even on the air. Now it's streaming on 4 TV platforms. Shortly after he told me that, he spoke it into existence. Isn't that something? I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want to be, Malcolm. Always trust God, Isaiah 54:17. And don't just stick to sports. I would never tell you that. And for those men that tell their children only stick to sports, what an insult. Develop your mind to its highest extent. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. But too many of our black men, they want to teach their kids to go out and dribble for 3 hours a day so you can play pro ball. How are you going to play pro ball? There's only 1,500 jobs in the NFL. In the NBA, there's less than 500. What a way to set your kid up for failure. Just play sports. How about try to get into business? And then Big C, all that wealth of knowledge over the years, always saying you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe. I love saying this when you're ready to rumble. I love what I do with Big C Sports. I'm so passionate about this push for reparations. I know it's going to happen in 2024. They've already set between $1 million and $3 million for every descendant of California freedmen. It's so powerful right now at the tip of our breath. Every breath you take is like a gift from God. Are you breathing? As we're breathing, they're discussing reparations now in Congress. Over 170 senators and congressmen have already endorsed Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. It's called H.R. 40. It's a reparations bill. It's gotten over 172 endorsements between the House and the Senate. All you need is 2/3 vote to pass reparations. And you got a former NFL football player. I only talk about sports with his voice. And what I'm doing is writing a letter to the White House asking President Biden, what can the National Black Wall Street do to help pass reparations? Just like Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Rick Scott, they made sure that our Jewish brethren get their Holocaust paychecks, their heirs. You would never hear Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Rick Scott say, oh, we only talk about sports. That's an insult. And I won't be an insult to myself. Got some NBA basketball. The Atlanta Magic and Phoenix Suns, they stand out as the biggest winners of the week. Both went 4-0, extended their active winning streak to 7 games each. Between the Magic and the Suns, Pablo Banchero, Franz Wagner, and Devin Booker should all receive strong consideration for Player of the Week. Both Banchero and Wagner had great performances on the offensive end, and Devin Booker kept the Suns afloat without Bradley Beal for the entire week. Kevin Durant for 2 games, Tyrese Halliburton and Trae Young had 2 of the best statistical games in the week relative to their averages, with a boost coming from their highest scoring game against each other. I want to say this to you because these guys don't just stick to sports. They own business. At the bottom of the spectrum, the San Antonio Spurs, the Washington Wizards, and the Memphis Grizzlies lost the most games. None of these teams are quarterly win, and all hold 3 or 4 worst net ratings in the league for the season. Tonight, big game coming up in Northern California, Denver Hills, the Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings. Will they light the beam? I don't know. But what I know for sure is Vivek Ranadive did not just take to sports when he was growing up, but he owns a sports team. Isn't that something? Wait until we start teaching that to black children. Don't just stick to sports. You can do more than that. And that's why I love Big C Sports, and you can give that some praise. Well, you know what time it is. As I always tell you, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink, because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber, you can call Lyft, you can walk it off, you can sleep it off. But don't drink and drive. The life you save may be your own or someone that you love. If that makes sense to you, that's my story and I'm sticking with it. Now you know what time it is. As I always tell you, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you flow like a butterfly and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat, because every time I follow Big C Sports, I want to say reparations now, reparations forever. He makes me float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. And he never just stuck to sports. And he's an icon. My beautiful mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism, which created the ghettos that some people don't want to go back to, or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. If you know anybody going through that garbage, pick up the phone and call 911. Because things change when the police show up. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. Hit me once, shame on you. You're not going to hit me again. Don't put up with that crap from anybody. Call 911. Well, as I always tell you on every Big C Sports show, I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day. Here's where we pay homage to President Abraham Lincoln. What did he tell Congress to do? He said, reparations now, reparations forever. Come on, say it better like that. You can say it like your team has won the game. You know you're going to be cheering at your games around town. Say reparations now, reparations forever. Do it. You know, Abraham Lincoln, when he said you get 40 acres in a mule, he meant it. What should Congress do? Honor President Abraham Lincoln. What did he say, Curry? He said reparations now, reparations forever. I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day.